Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to the show. Today we're talking about the rocket diplomacy going on over there in Israel and Lebanon and immigrant crime. We'll be talking about today. A lot of people are upset about immigrant crime, and it's very interesting how this issue. I mean, it's a real issue. Don't get me wrong, but the news media has been very good at burying real issues for a long time, and they've been unable to bury this one. And so it's just been one of the interesting things about this campaign season. This is episode 421 of the Council on Future Conflicts. My name is Scott. I'm the proprietor of the Future Conflict channel. Today I'm with Mr. Joe Dolio, who is back on camera after his quite a long drive that you had.
Yeah, it was a long few weeks. I think it was 3 weeks total that I was gone. So happy to be back. I already visited the A bar within 24 hours of my return for good old Taco Tuesday. If you don't know, if you ever make it to Big Fork, Montana, A bar Taco Tuesdays is the spot. But bring cash because they don't take checks or don't take credit cards. Anyway, now that I'm back on that, we're moving on to another thing that we want to really talk about. Watcher, if you could pull that up. Not this weekend, but next weekend in Libby, Montana, we're having the Veterans Stand Down, 24th annual. Sometimes this is the biggest one in the nation, where vets can come in and get some free food. We'll feed you breakfast and lunch, and we'll also give you some food to take with you, warm clothes, some counseling, offer some medical clinics and checkups, and just all kinds of good information for veterans. One of the problems we have in Northwest Montana is that there are a lot of veterans living in the woods, and something that Elle said, for every veteran you see homeless on the streets, there's 10 more in the woods that you don't see. And this is a way to try to get them all to come on down out of the woods and get some services, get things done. But there's also going to be a lot of fun there. There's going to be food. There's going to be some vendors. I think Shield Arms is joining me for this. We're trying to bring in as many as we can. So I shared this on Twitter, folks. If you see it, please share it so we can get the word out to as many people as possible. It's actually serving vets who are both in the Montana and the Spokane, Washington VA system, or who should be. And we'll try to get you in there. We got all kinds of gear to give out, including some winter sleeping bags and things like that.
And Joe, if I'm not mistaken, there's also going to be local employers there looking to hire veterans.
There'll be local employers looking to hire folks on the spot. There's going to be a lot of good things. So please share this out, and if you can't make it or don't know who can, there's a website on there, veteransfoodpantry.org. You can go and donate to the cause. Just a bunch of fantastic people, and I wanted to share it and get that out there. And on this show, we're real big about promoting our own classes and things like that, but sometimes there are bigger issues and bigger things that we need to work on. Also, Agreed. If you live in the area and you got some books you want signed, come on by. I'll sign them. And we'll be hanging out all weekend, Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. This has just been one of the kind of the great kind of side effects of being able to do the show have been to promote events like this. I mean, I think we've been fairly consistently trying to do this. I mean, sometimes we're better at it than others. Sometimes there are events that are easier to push than others, but ultimately got things like this where veterans kind of helping other veterans, I think is it's pretty important. Thanks for bringing this to us, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. They're great folks. And one of them we can do to help them out. I'm going to try to record a podcast with Al and Linda's daughter, Cinnamon here, who runs the whole thing. So we will see.
Very cool. Very, very, very cool. All right. Let's see. Watcher, how are you doing today, brother?
I am doing great. And now that Joe has done something good and altruistic, let me take a heel turn. Somebody who will remain nameless, but challenged me yesterday about management of Western lands and leaving the management of Western lands in federal hands. And while I do plan on, when I eventually gain
Do
some
you want to
time,
share that? Do you want to share
rant
that
on
tweet?
Twitter. No, well, I guess I might as well. Let me look
You
it
could.
up.
How about you read it? That way, you're not like by name in the guy, but you can at least address it.
What?
I mean, because
Well,
I think he's a viewer of the show. We're not trying to like
it's-
diss the guy or anything like that. It's just
yeah. This is but it was a very interesting situation where they essentially came in and accused us of knowing nothing at all about the management of Western lands and being idiot libertarians because we don't want the federal government to have the ability to continue to murder people for trying to live their own lives. I'm sorry, like it's inexcusable at this point. But I will say that I'm not going to grab the post now that I think about it. But it's in relation to several people in our community who seem to think that that it's a better idea to allow the federal government to continue to manage all of the Western lands, all of them, because the states are going to be incompetent at who is able to buy those things. To which I can't help but make the observation that literally every person making this argument is running a current successful ranches, standing atop the corpses of the thousands of ranches that the federal government purposefully killed off. We get it, vultures. It's been great for you. Anyhow, we'll get into this more thoroughly. I do plan on actually systematically disassembling this person's argument. However, as those who know me personally will know, I am under larger time constraint commitments than I almost always am. I'm currently working on a ranch, so stand by for that.
I'm poking the chat bear. Yeah, everyone, that works. Everyone send me DMs.
We'll get there eventually, Shifty. I'd like this person or a representative of their ideology to be able to actually stand up and be able to receive what is coming, but when it's appropriate. Definitely on a Friday, right? Because this is definitely a domestic issue.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We've already got several good things keyed up for the Friday show.
You know, living now in Northwest Montana, let me just tell you that the sheer volume of U.S. federal government law enforcement vehicles driving around out here, between the U.S. Forest Service Rangers, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Bureau of Land Management, Bureau of Indian Affairs, it's a little bit scary on federally managed land exactly how much law enforcement there is keeping their thumb on you. So.
Yeah, well, it's just, and you know, the problem is that if you are inclined to not abuse people, then it's easy to kind of to not necessarily abuse your powers. But if you're the type of person that's drawn to wanting to have power over people, you always find those people finding the power to put the thumb on the back of the necks of good people. You know, whether it's local, state, or federal people. And I'll be honest with you, I think more people are drawn to those federal positions. But
yeah, I think so too. I think the more pathological are drawn to that. But yeah,
I think you're right. All right, guys, let's jump into our first odds and ends here.
Speaking of pathological.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. Because you kind of teed that one up. Key Ukrainian stronghold about to fall to Russia. Zelensky touts victory plan in D.C. So this kind of goes back to what we've been talking about, how they're touting all the success that they're having up in Kursk, which they are having success up in Kursk. But it's limited success, and it's success basically where they don't need success. What they need to be doing is guarding their own rear, which they're not doing. Down in the Donbass, they're losing their Don ass. Let's see. Vladimir Zelensky is about to present a victory plan to President Biden, as well as Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump, likely in that order as the meetings unfold this week. He said in an ABC News interview, "I think we are closer to peace than we think." Maybe through means that you're not tracking, but he caveated this by saying that it only to be assured if Ukraine comes from a strong position with the help of Western backers. He described the so-called victory plan as not being forced on seeking to negotiate with Russia, but rather it is a bridge to a diplomatic way out to stop the war. I don't know how that's any different, honestly. We just have to be very strong, Zelensky says, and this is largely dependent on quick decisions. He also said quick decisions not to allow for the re-election to occur. Let's see. He also said of late that bold decisions must be made by Washington in reference to the request for NATO to greenlight long-range missile strikes on Russia, i.e. to drag NATO into a war with Russia. Everybody's looking up to Biden, and we need this to defend ourselves. We need to defend ourselves by striking long-range targets deep inside of Russia. And what happens when everybody complains, oh, well, Russia was striking civilian targets within Kiev. Okay, no denying that. They absolutely did. So, under that criticism, you'd think, well, we've got the Western backing. We're going to do better than that. Nope. When Kiev is struck deep, they do the exact same thing. They strike civilian targets. So like it's all the same on both sides.
When I am weaker than you, I scream for you to abide by your principles.
Exactly. The strengthening of Ukraine, this is Zelensky speaking, the strengthening of Ukrainian army and the Ukrainian people, only the strong position can we push Putin to stop the war in a diplomatic way. That's why we are asking our friend. And so,
hold on. You skipped over this. This was hilarious. Everybody's looking up to Biden, and we need this to defend ourselves.
Well, yeah, I read that.
Oh God damn! I missed it because my brain must have just censored it out as the aneurysm material.
Well, I said that we need this to defend ourselves. Yes, so we can strike deep into your territory to defend ourselves.
Oh,
so let me address two things. First of all, y'all in the Rumble chat, we don't need that visual. And Stormy and I have just come up with a way to help the Ukrainians out. These Haitians who need somewhere to go, rather than sending them to the fictional state of Ohio, we could send them to places that have room to grow for population, like Avdiivka and Mariupol. They're a little light on populations right now after current events, and maybe we can refill their numbers, right?
Well, hey,
look,
and listen,
what better conscript soldiers for the Ukrainians than dudes who eat other human beings? I mean,
that's what I'm saying. They already have a baseline level of viciousness that's far beyond anything that you'd find in Eastern Europe.
Well, and this gets rid of that pesky body problem. If you've all these dead Russians, that Ukraine claims that they leave all these dead Russians.
So you don't even have to send them rations.
Right.
So just as Zelensky is doing this whole victory lap, I don't know if you guys saw, he was touring the ammunition factories in Pennsylvania, and they were with the governor of Pennsylvania signing artillery shells and things like this. Because here's the thing, those artillery shells that are signed will be tracked, and the Ukrainians will identify them when they get to Ukraine, and they will take pictures of them, and then they will document them actually shooting those. So, so that is a direct linkage to the governor of Pennsylvania, his artillery shell going downrange to kill Russians.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't Kamala there signing them as well?
Not at this event.
Okay, because I did see a picture of her and Zelensky signing bombs together.
That could very well be the case.
And it was a perfect juxtaposition against Trump showing up at a random grocery store and buying people's groceries for them.
Well, that's just one more sign that Putin can point to, the fact that he's actually at war with the U.S., right?
Right. So anyway, as Zelensky's doing this victory lap in Pennsylvania and places like that, Russian forces have begun storming an eastern Ukrainian town of Vuhledar, a stronghold that's resisted Russian attacks since the beginning of the 2022 war, according to Russian war bloggers and state media. Russian forces at eastern Ukraine advanced at their fastest rate in 2 years in August, according to multiple open source maps, even though a Ukrainian incursion in Kursk, Russia's Kursk region, sought to force Moscow to divert troops. One well-known regional journalist and war observer, formerly of the BBC, agrees that things are looking bad for Ukrainian forces in Vuhledar. He says, as confirmed, Russian sources, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. What else did this guy say? They are so close. They are also closing the lid on the near encirclement of a large chunk of land outside of Krasnohorivka, mopping up Zelane too. The situation on the front line couldn't be worse for Zelensky and Biden summit. Yeah, I mean, Joe, this is nothing new. I mean, this is, like he said, this has been going on since the beginning of August, and you know. This was the real news during the whole Kursk thing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the impact of this will be, or do you think it's just one of those kind of things that's like they'll just keep chipping away at Zelensky's forces?
Well, as they continue to lose territory here in the important sides, they're going to continue to point to all the land they hold in Kursk. And Russia is content to let them hold because there's actually nothing of value there, right?
Yeah.
There's no strategic purpose to holding Kursk other than to say, look, we hold some Russian territory. So Kursk is cover for them losing territory in the south. And it will continue to be so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a distractionary measure that didn't succeed.
Well, you know, it's let's be honest. This was kind of odds and end 1B, right? Because we're not the only one who sees this way. Ukraine needs to be realistic and give up territory to Russia, Czech's president says. Even the Czech president is telling Ukraine to be realistic. You know, with this whole peace plan idea, it's just really interesting to see these European guys who are generally on the side of Ukraine broadly, but not specifically with Zelensky's vision of this.
Does Stan have a brother or a cousin in Czechoslovakia?
He does kind of.
Well, Czech or the Czech Republic or Slovakia. They're two different places now.
Yeah, Czech Republic. Yeah, who said Czechoslovakia? Was that you?
That was me. That was me.
Yeah. Bad boy. Czech Republic and the Slovak. The Czech president Petr Pavel, a former NATO general, has told the New York Times in an interview that Ukraine needs to be realistic about its goals in the war, and the most likely outcome of the conflict is that Ukraine will have to concede some territories. This admission that Ukraine may have to cede territory is especially surprising from Pavel, who New York Times describes as one of the most steadfast supporters of Ukraine. Yeah, so when the steadfast supporters of Ukraine, who are actually looking at reality, make realistic projections, the NAFO bros' heads explode.
Well, what's funny is the unreality or the uneven reporting that we see. So, yes, Ukraine needs to be prepared to give up the Donbass, but when Russia kills a Ukrainian somewhere in the world, everyone's like, "Oh my God, these horrible Russians attacking civilians elsewhere." When the Ukrainian special forces dome a Wagner guy who's just working on an oil contract in West Africa, it's like, look at the brave Ukrainians fighting the Russians everywhere in the world. It's a propaganda war. Ukraine is winning the propaganda war, but losing the physical war. It's the actual epitome of the pigeon strutting across the chessboard, knocking over pieces and saying he won, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Joe, what do you think? What do you think an actual deal could look like? I mean, if they mean, what do you think Russia would have to give up? What do you think Ukraine would have to give up? And what do you think the status quo looks like? Because the NATO meddlers aren't going away.
I don't know. I think that, as I've always thought, that if we stop the war welfare, Ukraine would be forced to the negotiating table or would flat out lose. So
yeah,
I don't want them to flat out lose. I don't think that's the right solution. But I also don't think continuing to just churn dead people on both sides is a solution either. So a negotiated settlement, as we have said from day one, is the best possible outcome.
So yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I for the longest time I've said this is like some sort of a codependent relationship where like the sister keeps feeding money to her junkie brother, and eventually the junkie brother's going to OD, not because he's just a junkie, but because the sister always enabled him to have everything he needs. And it's shocking how many junkies, when people stop enabling them, that's when they get motivated to get off to get off their habit. So I think the habit of Ukraine is absolutely Western, specifically U.S. money. Anyway, let me just read a little more here. The most probable outcome for the war will be the Ukrainian territory will be under occupation temporarily. However, the temporary occupation could last years, according to Pavel. He cited fatigue after the 19 months of war, and the conflict was growing everywhere. Under such a scenario, Ukraine will have to be realistic about how likely it is to recover territory from Russia. And I think that's true. I think, we're likely to see something along the lines of like North and South Korea type of deal. Though I think Russia will basically attempt to annex all portions of Ukraine that it seizes, once everything settles down. I don't think they're going to try to create a like an Eastern Ukraine type of scenario. All right. Anyway, I didn't want to go too deep into this article. I just wanted to kind of give a different point of view from what you would normally see from the mouthpieces in DC on the status of Ukraine. All right. What do we got next?
So what you're saying is we were talking about Ukraine imploding, and now we're going to talk about a Chinese rocket exploding.
Exploding, yes. Now, okay. Fair warning. We think there's probably a 50, maybe a less than 50% chance that this is real. For me, Watcher, the thing that tips me off is that the drone seems to be going really fast.
Well, you can get 300 mile per hour drones. That's they're made in China. The thing that gets me is dust swirl patterns in various different, like there's various different parts of this. Like the shadows on that building there kind of look suspicious to me. Everything looks a little too smooth.
I thought the smoke shadows were a little too strong. Joe, what's your? Let's assume this is real. I mean, landing rockets is hard. What do you?
I'm going to assume that it's not. That definitely is CGI explosion.
CGI, yeah. It's kind of
exploding particles don't roll end over end like that perfectly.
Well, the thing for me is that I think that this rocket, as soon as it would explode, the entire thing would explode. Because
it's not just going to be the engine section.
Yeah, watch how it's really nicely intact, and it doesn't seem to be any kind of
it's
deformation, or anything. So
it's not falling to one side or the other.
But I'll tell you that if this were real, this actually would be concerning. A lot of people looked at it and went, haha, explosion. And I'm going to say, do you have any idea how many of SpaceX's rockets crashed horrifically before they were able to successfully do a return landing?
I'm curious how many Falcon 1s crashed?
Hundreds.
I'm curious. I don't know. I don't think it was hundreds.
If you're talking about failures that made the rockets unusable, it was an incredibly high percent.
All right. The vehicle was okay. Falcon 1 was launched a total of 5 times. After 3 failed launch attempts, Falcon 1 achieved orbit on its 4th attempt with a mass simulator payload. Falcon 1 made its first successful flight. Okay. I want to know about the return.
Yeah, and
Stevie
you're also
J
only
says
talking
this
about
new
a
mod
single
for
rocket.
Arma looks sick. Yeah, exactly right.
Exactly right. The new armament. This is Unreal Engine. This is like, Watcher. So actually, you know what? That link that I sent you on X, for those people who are like, I don't know, it looks pretty real to me. Watcher, show that motorcycle clip that I shared with you, because that looks real too, but it's not. It's absolutely a video game.
Mouse problems acting up. Hold on.
All right.
Give me my mouse back. There we go.
Stormy doesn't think she thinks it's CGI too.
Well, here we go. 4 messages, and then yours, and then scroll back up to the one I want. Here we are.
So this, I mean, if you're just looking at this, it looks pretty darn real, but in fact, it's entirely a video game. The level of realism in the graphics on video games now is absolutely convincing, especially if you look at it from, older eyes that aren't used to seeing a whole lot of CGI.
Particularly if they took a real like this is all 100% made up location. If you take a real location,
I'll tell you how you can tell that's fake. There's not a single car crossing. Every car is in the same direction.
Yeah,
that's it. Well, do you remember that first-person shooter video game that they released that was pretty? That was a lot of people were wondering if that was real or not. But it was
real. People said it was supposed to look real, but even from the first one I saw of that, I was like, "But you can tell it's really fake." Sorry.
Well, you can tell it's fake, but it's one of those kind of things. I think that people really had to,
You did have to actually look at it for a minute, rather than most things. The second you see it, you're like, "Oh, it's a video game."
Yeah. Anyway, so here's the thing. Bottom line is, let's assume that I think that China is absolutely working on something like this, and I think we should be afraid of them, only from the standpoint of they absolutely want to take what is ours, which is that kind of domination of the high ground, i.e., low Earth orbit space.
Joe, this is just China being China. Do you really think they'd have allowed a drone that close to anything sensitive at all?
They're flying it themselves.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's for propaganda purposes, maybe, but I think it's CGI.
For propaganda purposes, they never would have released the video if it didn't contain a crash, right?
Well, I mean, it's just I have no idea what they've done a lot of things that I don't quite understand.
Here's the deal: if that were real, it was, even though it's a crash, it's something you want to show off, because getting that close means that you are within a few iterations of being successful.
The other thing, I guess, that I'm kind of with Joe here is that if this is everything in China is national security related, right? And if China had this capability and they were that close, I don't know that they would want anybody. They would want to do everything they can to hide that capability. They would just want to start using it. I think. I mean, that's kind of where you're thinking probably too, right, Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't believe the video for one bit. It doesn't make any sense, and I would have to believe that America has a whole lot of. I mean, China has a lot of freedom for its citizens to be able to fly drones around and all that. I don't buy it.
Yeah, I mean, the only way this could have been possible is if this was the organization that is launching that rocket, this drone was controlled by them. And then it would have to pass through the sensors and all that.
And then the person who flew it is probably dead. So, for releasing it.
Well, and China is known for using crappy CGI ripoff type stuff to play to their internal audience. So yeah. Anyway, this is definitely something. This is a capability I worry about China getting.
So I can't find numbers on it, but give me just a second.
Yeah, Story makes a good point here. The drone didn't move with all those flying parts coming at it. Yep, that's exactly right. And then also, you got to remember those rockets it was pretty damn close to where the rocket was buffeting. So that would have been shooting, gas and turbulence and just,
yeah,
all over.
The massive amount of physical air movement required to keep that rocket from smashing into the ground would have made it virtually impossible for a drone to be flying there.
Let me tip this off, and then you guys can keep talking as much as you want. I've yet to be able to
fly in the wind in Oklahoma.
Right.
So, like I was saying, I've yet to be able to find numbers on how many failed. But here is a compilation Elon Musk released of his favorite of the failures and explosions. It's a lot. And I should have just let this play throughout the time, but they're at a 99% success rate now. But in the early days of this, people weren't even sure whether this was possible, and they just continued to wreck them over and over and over and over again, which is part of why they succeeded.
Well, and that was the interesting thing about SpaceX, right? They took a very different approach than any aerospace company has ever done. American aerospace has been very risk adverse, since probably the post World War II years.
See, and real quick, I want to say this right here is what makes me think for sure that Chinese video is fake. Is that you would not have it land on the engines and then stay upright. As the engines, first of all, aren't designed to hold the weight of the rocket. So the second it gets off of the legs, it's done for.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just glad that SpaceX is a U.S. is a U.S. company. I don't know that it could actually be from anywhere else. All right. Anyway,
yes, Stevie J. China pays employees in every company to steal things.
Yeah.
Their industrial espionage is way bigger than their traditional espionage.
Yeah, and if you want the scary part too, it is machine learning algorithms which guide the rocket down. If you want the real scary part, those machine algorithms are available to everybody. The real thing that gives SpaceX an advantage is simply how they weight their data. And those data weights would be less than a gigabyte to steal. So.
All right. That's enough of that. Now, so that's a simulated failure for China, but this is a massive failure for the United States Navy. And this is I won't say that he is a friend of the channel. I know he is somebody that all of us follow, and many of us comment on his posts. John Conrad, this is over on G Captain. U.S. Navy oiler runs aground, forcing carrier strike group to scramble for fuel. This is now, Joe, being my favorite web-footed aquatic animal. This is something that probably hits pretty close to home when you hear that the oiler is runs aground and now a carrier strike group is without an oiler.
Well, let me correct some of the misconceptions people had from that, and everyone thought I was having the same misconception, but I didn't. They said I needed to refuel the carrier. The carrier does not need to be refueled. The aircraft do, and the escorts do, right? So the carrier can theoretically go forever. They said it would force the carrier to slow down. No, it would force the strike group to slow down, not the carrier itself. It can still pump out 45 knots all day long. So in order to fly planes, we need the JP8 and JP5. In order to run the other boats, we need the diesel. So the rest of those ships now have to scramble and find commercial tankers, but the commercial tankers don't have the same fittings and deck piping and all of that in order to do unrep or underway replenishment. And that is where the problem is. All these ships are going to have to rotate in and out of port to get fueled. So our biggest problem here is not the navigational problem of a guy running aground. That happens more often than you might think. The problem is the lack of reserve capability. We don't have another oiler in the vicinity that we can just send over. We used to, but we do not at present.
Yeah, let me read a little bit of this here because John Conrad.
Damn it, Shaniqua. I said starboard.
John Conrad's a real expert in this stuff. If you follow him on X, he's definitely a good follow, so check him out. G Captain has received multiple reports of the U.S. Navy oiler, the USNS Bighorn. Now, one thing that I had forgotten, I knew it, but I had forgotten about this, is that all the mariners on these oilers are all merchant marines, not actual naval.
This is the Naval Defense. This is the NDRF, the Naval Defense Reserve Fleet. So, yeah.
It says here, it ran aground yesterday and partially flooded off the coast of Oman, leaving the Abraham Lincoln Strike Group without its primary fuel source. Let's see. A leaked video and photos show damage of the ship's rudder post, water flooding into the mechanical space. U.S. naval vessels don't typically transmit AIS signals, so we don't know the exact location of the ship, but a Navy source confirms she is anchored near Oman, awaiting full damage assessment. Fortunately, no injuries or environmental damage have been reported for the ship. This is significant because the 33-year-old vessel is one of the single-hulled versions of the Kaiser class oilers. Just real quick, yeah. So this blow this image up, Joe. And Joe, can you explain it for the folks?
The hulls. I was busy thinking about my own point. You mean single hull versus double hull? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Watcher's blowing the picture up here, I guess. And
all right, so single hull means basically once the water gets in, it's in. Double hull means that you have a little bit of an air gap there that you can pump the water out of, right? And you can shift ballast to the other hull and other side of the ship and make it balance. But with only one hull, you're going to get water in, and you don't really have anywhere else for that water to go than flooding your entire ship. With a double hull, you can trap that water and use it as ballast. So
essentially, you just got to hope you have more pump capacity than you're taking on water.
Correct. But I wanted to point something out, especially since it's a merchant marine ship. Is the likelihood of Chinese or Russian GPS spoofing cannot be overlooked here.
Yeah,
I know we want to point at DEI, but generally the merchant marine, those DEI hires aren't looking for that job. So let's just be honest about that. There's not a lot of folks jockeying for position in these roles. These are almost 100% former Navy. Almost 100% competent. You're not having DEI out here, but you do have less capable systems on board the ship that may have relied on something that could have been spoofed that put them in a position to run aground. So,
yeah. Fortunately, no injuries or environmental damage have been reported for the ship. This is significant because the 33-year-old vessel was one of the single-hull versions. Let's see. The Bighorn sustained damage while operating at sea in the U.S. 5th Fleet area of operations overnight. All crew members are currently safe. U.S. 5th Fleet is assessing the situation. Here's
a picture from inside.
Yeah, this is some of the stuff that was leaked.
Hey, this is the water level, and this is a fuse box.
Kaiser class oilers, nicknamed for Kaiser Sose, were no, I'm just kidding. It's Henry J. Kaiser. Anyway, it'd be cooler if it was Kaiser Sose. Were introduced in the 80s and have long been the backbone of the Navy's underway replenishment capabilities. The vessel refueled carriers, strike groups, and other naval assets at sea, a critical task ensuring the Navy's global reach and operational readiness. However, as single-hull tankers, they've been considered environmentally vulnerable since following the Exxon Valdez oil spill. And some 1990 Oil Pollution Act mandated double hull designs for commercial oil tankers. Joe, everybody kind of focuses when you think about power projection, especially in the naval realm. People think about, aircraft carriers and submarines and all this kind of stuff. But in reality, these oilers are absolutely what allows the Navy to kind of go beyond those friendly ports. And
it's a classic example of the fact that you have to win the low-tech war before you can win the high-tech war, right? All of our gadgetry is really, really cool if we can keep it moving and powered. Without oil, the ship doesn't turn its turbine. Without the turbine turning, you don't get electrical power. So we much as we want to get away from fossil fuels, you just can't. I suppose we can return to tall sailing ships and all will be good.
Exactly right. So let's see. If the Navy resorts to using a commercial oil tanker as a temporary replacement, it would need to install a consolidated cargo handling and fueling system for underway replenishment. This system includes specialized refueling rigs, tension fueling hoses, high-capacity fuel pumps, all essential for safely transferring fuel to warships at sea. The tanker would also require robust communication and control systems to ensure precise coordination.
Station keeping becomes important, right?
Yeah.
That commercial oil tanker who usually doesn't have to be real good at station keeping because he's a giant oil tanker and everyone else will get out of his way. That doesn't apply when you're alongside of an aircraft carrier or a destroyer. And one wrong move by a super tanker will swamp and sink a frigate or destroyer. Yeah. So think about that.
And then also it says here, commercial tankers are significantly slower than Navy oilers, which would leave the U.S. Abraham Lincoln more vulnerable to attack. And then kind of on the bigger trend of shortages within the Navy. And while this seems like background, I think it's important to talk about because he also goes into the Merchant Marine here a little bit. The Navy faces a severe shortage of oilers and crew to operate them. Earlier this month, the Navy announced it may lay up 17 replenishment and supply ships, including one oiler due to difficulties recruiting U.S. merchant mariners. While the Navy has launched 5 new John Lewis-class oilers, including the USNS Lucy Stone, this week and awarded NASSCO a $6.7 billion contract for 8 more. Challenges persist. The official Navy and military Sea Lift Command sources have repeatedly assured G-Captain that the John Lewis program is on schedule. However, 2 Marine inspectors who have examined the new oilers tell G-Captain they're encountering numerous problems, delaying the vessels overseas. I actually
think the John Lewis class is great because whoever piloted this oiler into the rocks did it in true fashion and true spirit of John Lewis.
Let's see. Anyway, so this definitely has broader security implications, because it's such a single source point of failure. Let's see. The shortage of both oilers and tankers demands urgent action. The United States must build a larger U.S. flagged fleet capable of replenishing aircraft carriers and support joint wartime operations, expanding the tanker security program, enforcing cargo preference and pre-position fuel-laden tankers are potential solutions. They require immediate implementation. With the looming threat of conflict in the Pacific, securing a robust tanker fleet is not just a logistic necessity, it's a strategic imperative. And then he says that this crisis, coupled with the equally troubling merchant marine crewing crisis, and he's got a separate link to a story on that, poses a significant challenge for the U.S. Navy. Yeah, so this is and this is something that the current administration has done nothing to alleviate. I hate to say it, but everything's going to hell in a handbasket, and it's easy to put your finger on the last 4 years, the last 3.5, 4 years is when it's been happening.
I'm gonna call it now. I'm sorry, but watch your prediction time. They're gonna start the repairs on this ship, and then somebody's gonna be like, "That's not environmentally friendly. We need to get rid of it and go to a purely double-hulled design." And then we'll be 10 years out from a replacement for this one.
Yeah. I mean, even let's be honest. If miracle of all miracles happens and Trump skates into office and he decides I'm going to fix the oiler and merchant marine crisis, he may make some headway in about 4 years. Like right when he's leaving office, he may really start to see the benefits of that. I mean, these are the kind of problems that take so long to fix unless you're, in an actual national emergency kind of position.
Because we decided it was way cheaper to buy ships than build them.
You're exactly right. Exactly right. All right. Anything else on this, guys, you want to talk about? Just another hat tip towards John Conrad. If you check him out on X, let's see, what is his handle on X? John Conrad. I think it's just John Conrad. Yeah,
with a K.
At John Conrad is his handle on X, and like I said, he's an excellent follow. Always has great information about naval related stuff.
All things nautical and such.
Absolutely. We've tried to get him on, but he's just
busy man.
I haven't. I'm sure he's busy, but I haven't heard back from him. I think Pete's talked with him a little bit, so maybe when Pete comes back, we can get Pete to help us out. Okay, let's see.
We ready to move on to our main topic today?
I'm ready to move on to tactical-wisdom.com. Joe, what's happening in the tactical wisdom world? Hold on a second before you start. Random PNW guy 84 for $10 says it's looking more and more like the 2020s U.S. military is looking a lot like the 1980s Soviet military.
Yep.
Yes, but I would challenge that even in the 80s, the Soviets could project power and retain some territory. We may not be able to at this point. So, but yes, I agree. So anyway, tactical-wisdom.com. Well, I'm getting back in the swing of things after this long period on the road. And you know what? I was thinking last night about articles we could do, and Watcher posed a good question this morning that I'm going to talk about how you can find like-minded folks, build that community, and do it. We just had a great weekend, and I've been getting a lot of emails and texts from the guys who were there saying, look, you were right. The class was fantastic, but the real value was in the time spent around the campfire afterward talking. And they all agreed that Watcher is half Nephilim. But we had a great time, and that's where you build those partnerships and those relationships and everything. So I'm going to talk about how to do that, other places you can find things. Heck, the stand down I'm going to this weekend is another great opportunity to find like-minded people, right? So a lot of good things to come. So.
Well, and like the stand down's a great example of something that's not necessary. It's kind of like adjacent. It's adjacent to the prepper space versus directly, so I'd say any event that is adjacent, right, would give you opportunities to if you're worried about a bit like a profile or whatever, that allows you to kind of keep a much more regular profile and find like-minded individuals.
Well, that same weekend over in Tennessee, in Camden, Tennessee, is the Self-Reliance Festival.
Yeah.
Again, another great opportunity. I know several people in the chat now have been at the Self-Reliance Festival because I met you and talked to you there. And it's a great opportunity to meet like-minded folks. Going to different events like that, it is not like a crazy prepper event. It was really a lot of holistic and back to nature type people, but a lot of cool folks that are adjacent, like Scott just said, that you can build partnerships and things with. So Yeah, I'm going to list several of those opportunities and how to do that. We're also going to list some more T-shirts, like this really cool "You Are Already in the Collapse" T-shirt that I keep saying I'm going to list and haven't had the time yet. We're also designing a Camp Ponderosa specific shirt that will only be available when you attend that here. So that's actually going to be kind of cool. A lot of good things going on. We're just a little bit behind with all the road travel we had last month. So
Yeah. Very good, very good. So, Joe, real quick, but I'm only going to bug you about this because A, I haven't asked you about this in forever, and B, I haven't heard anybody else ask you about this in forever. So, how's the next book looking?
get my bayonet.
Wow.
I know you've been really busy. You've been traveling a lot, so I know you haven't
No. The lady who lives here asks me this question every day too because it's directly tied to our income level. So
I'm just waiting for Sibley to pop out from behind Scott's camera.
Oh, don't worry. Sibley's harassing me enough about a short story I owe him that is 3/4 done. I'm like, are you seriously doling me right now?
In fairness, Sibley hasn't asked me one time about my story. So
is yours in yet?
No, it's not in. I abandoned it halfway through because I just had so much other stuff going on with this situation. So
he probably knows you're a lost cause.
Oh yeah, thanks.
And there's probably a certain amount of justice in hounding me about a story that's not done, given the amount of hounding I gave him. So
that's true. So yeah, all that
it's being worked on. It's being worked on. Some people know what it's about, but we'll get there. So.
Looking forward to that. I know we've talked offline about that a little bit in the past, so I'm really excited about it. I think it'll be a very cool, kind of follow up to some of your other previous stuff. Little different than the first aid one, so it should be.
I think there's that one. That book's gonna be good, and I think my short story everyone's gonna like because I'm gonna leave them hanging right in the middle of a story, and perhaps it will be continued on elsewhere. So.
I like it. Joe, I've been a big fan of you getting into more fictional stuff, and linking some of your fiction to the actual stuff in your books. Sibley's tapped into all his buddy writers for this. Maybe we need to do a Tactical Wisdom short story collection that references, either Bible verses or.
I think a future conflict anthology set in a future conflict is actually.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. If I wasn't just dead on my ass here lately, I would totally be in support of that. Watcher, if you want to head.
Yeah, I agree. But let me take some heat off Scott for a second. I actually have something to promote today, gents. It's not mine personally, but it's a mutual friend of the council. This was an article that Joel and the other administrative staff out here at the ranch wrote called "Soil and Money," and it is a thorough examination of how the cycle of empire is directly tied to the soil cycle. I'm going to drop that in there and just say that I cannot encourage you enough to go and read this article. It's
that's actually a very, very good article. So
you know what? I do have something to actively promote. I kind of hat tipped towards this on Monday, saying that I'd give you guys a preview of this here on the show, but I went ahead about an hour.
Comment up. I was going to type a reply, but you got to put Gene Rogers' comment up on a screen so that I can address this nonsense.
Yeah. There we go.
There you are. Oh,
you keep
Scott and I are trying to do it together
at the same time. Yes.
All right. I'm just gonna put it up. We'll leave it.
All right. When is my romance novel coming out? Well, listen, I started to work on it, and then Sibley's lawyers sent me a letter in reference to the Shenandoah Valley Compact, which says that what happens in the Shenandoah stays in the Shenandoah. So the romance novel is not coming out. So,
oh man, that's
and
you got
Mrs.
to write with
Tactical
the.
Wisdom will point out that I know literally nothing about romance. So,
Well, it's just romance for a different audience. Joe, as long as you change the names, and
well,
it's
Stormy
this is
over in the Rumble chat has a working title idea.
Toes of Fire.
Joe. All right, my thing is right here. Let me share my screen for a moment. If you go over to the Land and Sea Indiegogo page, I think some of our mods have that link that they could share in the chat. And you go to right here where it says updates.
I'm still waiting on Doorkickers 2. I'm just going to put that out there.
The art's done. I'm doing
It's
this.
ready to print.
No.
This one's on me. It is the print file's ready. We are waiting for me to be home so that when the books actually arrive there, I will be there to receive them.
Yes. So the good news is that it's in the home straight. It's just the slowest home stretch ever. But we do have something to deliver for people. If you want to read some Scott McCullough comic goodness based off of the Brent Evans Land and Sea, a novel series that Blaine has written. I know Brent Evans Land and Sea, but Blaine has written all of them. Well, you got to remember, the Land and Sea is a broader kind of franchise, and the novels are just one aspect. Just like my graphic novel is another aspect of that. And so, by the way, I'll just post the link in the chat here. All right, so there's the link is in the chat now. So feel free to go and check this out. If you see here under the updates, black and white digital previews out, and basically we've got this black and white digital preview, first 29 pages of the book for free. Anybody can get it. You don't have to have backed the book to get this. And so you see the picture of the cover here, and then right below it, you've got a link that goes to a Google Drive page. And when you click that link and you open it up, you get the PDF that you can then download and put it wherever you want to put it, so that you can read it at your leisure, or you can take it and if you've got your copier or your printer set up or whatever, you could print out the pages and staple them together so you could read it in a hard version versus a soft copy. And then, the last page here, we got a great full page spread in color to just kind of show you the color quality, which is very high. Doug Franchen's actually stepping in and doing the coloring duties on this one. Normally I have a gal named Farah do the colors, but she's not available for this one. So, and you even got your QR code right here. If you want to, scan that QR code, that'll take you right to the campaign. So there you go. This is a free comic that you can read right now. It's available to all of you. So, like some of you guys in the chat, maybe go ahead and download it while we're talking here, and let us know what you can at least look at the pictures and tell me what you think. All right, that's all I got on that. And by the way, the campaign is still live. You can still back it. So feel free if it's something you think you might like. I honestly think there's a not zero chance that this is out by Christmas. So, like in people's hands. So,
what about the other one? Will that one be out in people's hands by Christmas?
Oh, that'll be out. That'll be out probably within 45 days.
That puts you at Christmas, for the record.
That's November.
Mid October is what I'm.
You think mid October? Okay. No. It's doable. Weeks. We've got all the print files, so.
Mm-hmm. And it only takes a week for them to print it, so.
We shall see.
From your lips to God's ears, watcher. Kentucky Squirrel, thank you. I'm seeing some support over on X for sharing out the link. Okay. So let's jump into our first main topic for today: rocket diplomacy. We talked about some of the stuff that was going on with Israel the other day because it was kind of breaking, right? And then now it's just continuing to escalate and ramp up. The attacks on Lebanon have increased significantly since we talked about those warnings and things like that Israel was giving to the population of the Bekaa Valley. And now we're starting to see, very, very good evidence that Hezbollah is literally storing rockets in people's houses in Lebanon. I mean, and people get upset that these houses get blown up. This is the reason why Israel said, get away. You have a couple hours to move out, right?
Well, this is also where everyone wants to screech war crimes at Israel, but it's also a war crime to intentionally put civilians at risk. And that's exactly what Hezbollah is doing. So.
Yeah, 100%, Joe. I mean, and we've, you and I have both cited numerous times on this program that that protected sites are no longer protected if they are being used by enemy
used for any military purpose. So that includes like the Ukrainian schools making camouflage nets and
exactly right. Yeah, we've been saying this
making Molotov cocktails. So.
All right, so let's move to the first story here. Netanyahu vows attacks on Lebanon won't stop as Hezbollah escalates the deepest strikes inside Israel. Now, this is where we are seeing some unprecedented stuff here. We're seeing the first use of these long-range, they're medium-range ballistic missiles by Hezbollah. They're Iranian missiles. They're pretty good size. We'll show you a picture of one later. Sky News and others have been reporting that for the first time that in the conflict, the Hezbollah has launched a drone attack on a Navy base which lies south of Haifa. The Atlit Navy base, which was targeted, lies 80 kilometers from the Lebanese border. This is an attack significantly deep into Israel and reveals an extended range of Hezbollah missiles. Likely, as things slide further, and with Israel keeping up its intense airstrikes on Lebanon, Hezbollah missiles will begin reaching further and further. Now, this will come up later in the stories that we have in this segment. But just to kind of skip ahead, there were intercepts of long-range missiles by the IDF over Tel Aviv. So they're definitely shooting further and further into Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu has said late in the day on Tuesday on X, we will continue striking Hezbollah. Anyone who has a missile in their living room and a rocket in their garage will not have a home. I mean, that's the thing is that they absolutely have video of people who have literally like a rocket sticking out on the side of their house, and we'll see one here in a second. Let's see. Israel's military has been repeatedly claimed that Hezbollah is storing missiles, drones, and ammunition inside people's homes in south of Lebanon. Our war is not with you. Our war is with Hezbollah. He warned in the message, emphasizing Israel won't stop its strikes. Let's see. Nasrallah is leading you to the brink of abyss. Not yet. Netanyahu says, rid yourself of Nasrallah's grip for your own good. Israel's Iron Dome air defense system continues to be highly effective. Joe, I saw a statistic that since it's been enacted, the Iron Dome system has got a 90% intercept rate against targets it actually shoots at. So that doesn't include.
I agree with that. It's a very capable system.
Yeah. I honestly didn't think it was that high, but they were very clear that like they had to be able to shoot a missile at the system for it to count as a hit or a miss, right? If they don't have the system on or whatever, then it's not missing, it's just not firing. let's see. Once President Biden has issued, once again, President Biden has issued contradictory messaging on the current Middle East crisis, with Israel in its second day of greatly ramped up airstrikes on Lebanon. Amid a new declared offensive, Biden asserts that he framed as Israel's right to defend itself. Israel will surely take this as effectively a green light from the U.S. administration. Any country would have the right responsibility to ensure that an attack could never happen again, Biden said while referencing October 7th. But then he quickly highlighted that within Gaza, innocent civilians are also going through hell. Thousands and thousands killed, including aid workers. Too many families dislocated, crowded in a tent, facing a dire situation. They didn't ask for this war. To the extent that they decided to live next to Hamas and continue to live next to Hamas, they kind of did ask for it.
Well, that's what's funny is they call these places open-air prisons. They are, just not in the way in which you think. It's not the Israelis holding the people prisoner there. It's Hamas and Hezbollah.
Yeah, and it really is more. It's very much these people are human shields. They're hostages by their own, essentially elected government, which is exactly what Hamas is.
Speaking of that region, I have to point out a really weird and interesting historical fact. For anyone who's been in the library here, there's quite a collection of historical books here, right, that have been gathered over the years.
Yeah.
This book here, The Art of Hunting Big Game, was written in 1967. It's dedicated to His Iranian Highness Prince Abdurreza Pahlavi of Iran, who this guy used to go hunting with, who would later go on to be the Shah of Iran and be deposed and killed, and leading to the situation we're in now. I just found that to be very interesting as I'm playing around with this book in my hand during the show.
Was the Shah killed? I thought he got out.
He got out and he died, but he was deposed, is what I said.
Well, yeah, deposed. That's right. I thought you said deposed and killed.
Well,
but anyway, 100%, Joe. That's that library is something special.
Yeah, and thanks to Hunch, who's not in the chat today, but Hunch, who went through the entire library and pulled out all the books he thought I would need for the next books in the Tactical Wisdom series. Apparently, he knows better than I do what I'm going to be writing. So,
well, you got hey. Good initiative, poor judgment.
And I misunderstood that. I thought he was pulling out all the books which might compete for shelf space with the Tactical Wisdom series. So.
Same deal.
So this is a news post from Joe's close personal friend Mari Nafal. Israeli airstrikes hit Hezbollah with unprecedented force. The Israeli Air Force has launched its most extensive airstrikes ever against Hezbollah, hence our thumbnail today, Israeli F-16. Targeting over 1,600 sites in southern Lebanon. By the way, these are all since our last program, and they had hit over 500 when we were on air on Monday. Let's see, 600 sites in the Bekaa Valley within a day. The strikes focus on Hezbollah's elite Radwan Guard force, killing top leaders and severely damaging rocket, missile, and drone capabilities. The IDF issued warnings to civilians before the strikes, which we talked about on Monday. And they accused Hezbollah of endangering civilians by storing the weapons in homes. I want to get to, let's see, let's go to let's look further down in this page, see if they have they've got videos, of some of the impacts in southern Lebanon. I think it's the next story. So anyway, that kind of covers what was in that story. I want to get to the one where, so this is the interceptions. Let's skip this one and come back to this one, Watcher, because I want to get to the. I think this is it. The third link is the one I want to check out. And so this is the civilian infrastructure that's being hit. And so you can see this one here. Joe, what do you call those flashing lights inside the explosion?
Rocket fuel?
I was going to say secondaries, but yeah, this is This is what happens when you hit something like an ammo depot.
Well, that's when you hit something real, when you get secondaries, right?
Well, somebody said this was the ICOM radio storage facility.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And let me just say again, for the love of God, they were ICOMs, not Baofangs.
I know.
And seriously, the sheer number of people who sent me emails and text messages and left comments on my website, should I get rid of my ICOM radios? Did you get them from Hezbollah? If not, you're good.
Were you a part of the batch order with Hezbollah? No? Okay, you're fine, bro.
If you're still nervous, then we need to worry about you.
But I will say this: if you still have a pager, you should totally throw it away.
Yeah, and that has nothing to do with bombs. That's just
no.
The fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah, looking at the next video watcher, you've got kind of more of the same thing. Just look for the secondaries, and if you listen to turn the sound on, and you can kind of hear it. Not that one. It's in those 4 videos. It's the second one. Yeah, that's the fourth. Okay, so that's the 4th one. Go
back to the second one. I must have skipped it.
Yeah, one more. Go back there. This one right here.
Oh, one too many.
Yeah. Listen to that, Joe. You can see all the.
Oh yeah. Those are munitions cooking off in there.
And that's a lot of small ones going off. You know, or this is a rocket engine that's on fire, which
or Grod units stored in a Grod rack.
Yeah, like the solid rocket fuel in the. And then now the one I want to go to is finally this bottom one. This is the 4th video watcher. This is the one with the house. And there's some details to notice on this one as we watch it. So they're basically targeting this window, and then as part of the secondary, the rocket actually smashes out of the side of the house and hits the neighbor's house. So this is where it hits the initial hit, and then boom. Do you see that? The rocket that was stored in there cooked off, and then, basically took out the neighbor's house. So even your neighbors' houses can screw you over. So
what would have been really funny is if that rocket that hit the neighbor's house also set off a secondary explosion and it just pinballed all around town.
Yeah. All right. Let me close this one out. Now let's go back to the second story, if you would, watcher, because we'll talk about these intercepts. So these are Israeli missiles intercepted over the Syrian port city, which hosts the Russian Navy. I thought this was very interesting, Joe. There's definitely some regional implications with this one. Syrian army has told Reuters that Israeli missiles have targeted the Syrian port city of Tartus shortly after midnight Tuesday evening local time. Syria's air defense has reportedly intercepted the inbound missiles. Al-Mayadeen saying that at least 2 Israeli missiles were observed inbound, and there are currently widespread reports of multiple explosions. Tartus is Syria's second largest coastal city. It lies just south of Lebanon. Or just north of Lebanon. I
was going to say the only thing south of Lebanon is not Syria.
Yeah, it's Israel, right? And Israel attacks on it are very rare. Instead, most assaults have been focused on Damascus and its environs over the last several years.
It'd be interesting to know who intercepted those missiles.
Yeah, I mean, because I would assume it's probably a Russian system, and whether or not
I think we all know, right? Because even Russian systems that are exported to other countries, they don't train the locals how to use them. They just send.
Well, Russians. Yeah, I mean, how many Russian soldiers do we kill during the initial invasion of Iraq? I know it's unpopular, but the number was well over 100. So I mean, I guess my question is, was it shot down by a Syrian air defenses, or was it shot down by the Latakia perimeter defense? So
yeah. The Russians who are stationed there. That's because there's an airfield. I think it's just north of the port where the Russians operate tactical aircraft out of. And let's see. The staunchly pro-government stronghold didn't come under much Israeli fire throughout the totality of the Syrian proxy war. Russian bases and assets are positioned in Tartus nearby along the coast, a reality which has also ensured that the Israeli strikes remain relatively rare. The Russian Navy's only deepwater Mediterranean port is located in Tartus. Israeli media has also picked up on the nighttime attack and is writing that the Israeli Air Force was likely behind it. Currently, Israel is engaged in newly expanded anti-Hezbollah offensive in South Lebanon, which has resulted in over 550 Lebanese deaths. There are fears that the fighting could spread throughout the region if Shia paramilitary groups in Iraq and Syria get involved, and if Tehran directly enters the fighting in Lebanon. Damascus has always been a powerful state ally of Hezbollah. Yeah, this is.
Call me crazy, but I think at this point there is 0% chance that Iran's ready to whoop it on now that all of their allies have been systematically picked apart. If they were going to join, it would have been October 7th.
I've pointed out that the best way to judge Iran's diplomatic intentions is to take the exact opposite of her public statements. And the new Iranian president said that Iran does not desire a war against Israel. Well, that's usually a pretty good sign that they most certainly do. It's like when the Federal Trade Commission tells you not to buy gold and silver. You should certainly buy gold and silver.
Yeah, exactly right.
So in this, Bashar Assad owes his continued survival, not just his presidency, but his continued survival to Iran. He is in hot to Iran up to his eyeballs. He is essentially a proxy of the Iranian government at this point.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It says here, so far, Assad government has remained uncharacteristically quiet regarding what's happening in Lebanon, even as some pro-Hezbollah Lebanese have questioned why Damascus isn't coming to Hezbollah's direct aid, because they don't want to get schwacked by the Israelis. That's why.
There's also a long memory among the citizenry of northern Lebanon of a Syrian occupation that lasted far longer than the Israeli occupation and was far more brutal. So that's also important to note here. That's at play. Everyone wants to complain about Israeli actions, but they forget Syria occupied the Golan Heights for a lot longer than Israel did. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right.
There's a lot of fear of Syrian intelligence in Beirut. More fear of that than there is of the Israelis.
All right. Let's continue on, shall we? Yes, here we go. This is an IDF tweet that kind of goes into a little more detail about.
Is it further down the article, or is it in another one?
It's the fourth link on the show notes.
Okay. Oh yeah, I liked this one.
Yeah, because this kind of illustrates a little more of like what specifically they're singing. Where do cruise missile lives?
In Lebanon, the answer is inside the homes of Lebanese civilians. Let's take a look at a page from Hezbollah's playbook. For over 20 years, the terror army that effectively controls southern Lebanon has been paying Lebanese civilians to store rockets, rocket launchers, explosive UAVs, and cruise missiles inside their homes. Why? Hezbollah thinks that by creating human shields around these weapons, they'll be able to fire them at Israel without Israel defending itself. Hezbollah is wrong. The IDF has been urging the civilians of southern Lebanon to evacuate the danger zone, and they have. Now we're destroying these cruise missiles that can reach virtually anywhere in Israel before Hezbollah has a chance to use them on our civilians. Behind every explosion you see are the Hezbollah terrorists who put the weapons there in the first place. Where do cruise missiles live?
Yeah, so I think that's pretty effective. Joe, what's your take on that?
It's a real good information op, very accurate. It sticks to the truth. without embellishment, actually. I mean, that's a little bit odd because normally they're big on the hyperbole, but
Yeah.
I don't think necessarily that everyone has left. In order for me to take money from a group, I also have to somewhat sympathize with that group, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this, Hezbollah, if you want to store some rockets here at my place, I'm down with you delivering me some rockets. You just might not get them back. I'm just saying. You got
and
any
by the
extra
way,
RPKs you want to store too? I'll take them.
yeah, exactly. Well, the one RPK that I know about, notwithstanding that you and I
Something
have both
tells
shot
me
recently.
that a Hezbollah RPK might be substandard. I don't know. It's just this weird feeling I get.
Love, but it's okay.
Well, that's true that not all RPKs are created equal, but you know.
Yeah, we fired some Romanian ones that were pretty legit.
Yeah. That was probably my favorite gun to shoot that day. All right.
You want
Moving
the next one?
to,
Another Nafal post?
Yeah, so this is a little the dance of the Iron Dome going on over Israel. Each of these puffs is a dead missile.
Well, also each of those puffs is roughly $1.2 million of our tax money, and then somehow all the puffs on the opposite side are also a couple $1,000s of our tax money.
Here's the thing. If these missiles, I believe, are not $1 million. These are these Tamu interceptors.
So it's still less, but again, this is all my tax money exploding up there.
Exactly right. It's the money that we gave to. It's the billions of dollars that we gave to Iran, turned into weapons and sent to Hezbollah, and then it's also the American money that has basically bankrolled the IDF. They're about $100,000 per shot. So, the Iron Dome's pretty cheap when it comes to what it does.
So that's a teacher's salary per shot. Fun.
Yeah. Timu intercept. I can't remember. It's something Tamir. That's TAMIR is the name. That's my.
Boy, I sure hope the Israelis didn't source their air defense from Timu. That would
Timu sounds cheap. Anyway, it's wish.com. What do you expect? All right. Let me. So anyway, I thought this was pretty interesting. And then the tweet that he's actually got where the Israeli airstrikes are hitting within Lebanon on the tweet right below it, and I just think it's kind of note how widely spread these are. Despite ongoing Israeli airstrikes in southern Lebanon, rocket launches into northern Israel continue to be detected. These are the rocket launches into northern Israel. Upper Galilee region, as residents are warned. I always think it's so weird when you talk about like Galilee in a non-biblical context.
Yep. It's always been Galilee.
I think it's funny because my brain wanted that word to be Galil, but anyways.
Yeah. Let's see. Final thoughts, guys, on all this back and forth between Israel and Hezbollah. I mean, we talked about it on Monday how it's just going to continue to ramp up. Joe, I don't know that you were actually on for that segment of the show on Monday. Where do you think this is going?
Full-on conflict. There's no other way. I do know that about 6,000 U.S. troops are headed to the region in anticipation of conflict. We don't move those pieces unless we're pretty darn sure. So
I've also heard reports that those troops are, we'll just say, being fed in a way that makes one suspicious.
I don't know about that. So
you don't get steak and lobster on a ship every night.
No, you do not.
So
Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I think this is moving towards full out conflict between Hezbollah and Israel. And I think Israel's being really smart about how they're doing it. They're really hitting the kind of the soft underbelly
If
of
Israel
Hezbollah.
was really smart and wanted to really score some serious psyops points, they'd do it on 10-7. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Well, honestly, though, what I get what Joe's saying, and I agree with it. Like, if you want to know what Iran's posture is, just look at the opposite of what they're saying. I do have to say, though, it seems like such a weird time if they were going to hop on now to let Hezbollah, their little puppet playthings, command structure be entirely destroyed. Let a large portion of their rocket storage get destroyed, and then decide to hop in on the gang.
what was the position of the Japanese embassy on December 6, 1941?
Facts? True.
Well, you know, the other thing too is I think if Hezbollah is waiting for anything, it's for Iran to jump in with both feet, and Iran doesn't seem very interested in jumping in with both feet. I mean,
No.
Israel's done everything to provoke Iran. I thought that Iran and Israel would be at war already together, just based on what we've seen, the back and forth. The fact that Iran
let me clarify something. Iran and Israel are at war and have been since October 7th. It's just not the war you think it is.
Right. It's you know what I'm talking about is I'm talking
Yes.
about a full on open conflict. They're in that kind of hot cold war right now.
Well,
Hamas
we're
and
talking
Hezbollah
about.
don't lift a finger. That's not approved by the Ayatollah, and so therefore October 7th was 100% an Iranian attack.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the same time, you're getting all these Iran attacked Trump. You know, Iran's actively working against. So I mean, there is a lot of Iranian kind of stuff in the air, and it's not just aimed at Israel. And I don't mean by missiles. All right, let's move on to our next topic. Immigrant crime.
Just roll
gentlemen.
this video.
What's that?
Do you want me to just roll this video, or are we gonna?
Oh, the on the first link.
Yeah.
Oh no! Start with the Jamie Dimon one first, okay. Because
right.
This is kind of like a general position. This is 1 minute video from Jamie Dimon. Roll that one, and then we'll go into the sheriff.
Okay, I think I may have missed a link. Hold on. There it is. Okay. Let me get it all queued up for you. So, Elon Musk says Jamie Dimon's right. Oh, no.
Yeah, I know, right?
Uh-oh.
Well, I mean, I would normally not say Jamie Dimon's right, so let's hear what he has to say.
We are screwing up tons of other things, including immigration, but life isn't either or. So you can't say, well, we'll do this and do that. You're dealt the hand you're dealt, and you got to deal with it. And so we should be very clear about helping the lower income population. No country, every country's got to control the borders, and we have to control the borders. And so, so they're all important.
Would you take the deal that the Republicans have put on the table, though, which is we want this border immigration policy as we've laid out, and then we'll fund the rest? Would you rather take that than neither?
I have not read that deal in total, but I probably would take it. Yeah. We have to control the borders. We need more merit-based immigration. We need more seasonal immigration.
You know what I hear? Boy, maybe I shouldn't have funded and bankrolled the projects that I was funding. I really don't want my face associated with this.
Buyer's remorse.
Say? Yeah.
We need more. We need DACA have a place here. We need a path to citizenship. If you do not control the borders, you are going to destroy our country. And so I think the people who think that somehow this is okay. So now they're sending the migrants into New York and stuff like.
Please don't let it be lost on anybody else that he's also wearing a fucking NAFO pin.
That's all of my super liberal friends. Now they realize what a problem is. Did it have to be that? You know, that we realize it. So we want to have a big heart for the world, but we have to.
Boy, if only someone had been saying this for years prior to all of this dumb garbage going down.
So Jamie Dimon, it's one of these guys, really smart guy. He says some good things, but the majority of what he does is actually the opposite of what he talks about. So take everything he says with a grain of salt. He says the right things because he is very smart, but he doesn't necessarily follow through from his end.
Well,
the irony is
this
that,
coming from the man who called Bitcoin nothing but a thing for thieves and criminals, and then within 3 months moved J.P. Morgan into investing harder into crypto than any other banking system. I think the man is a pathological liar.
Well, I think he's also a sociopath.
Well, that's because you can't detach yourself from Bitcoin, but you have to emotionally detach.
I'm just talking about watching
seriously.
the man make statement after statement. Like Bitcoin is just the most obvious one because it's the one that he went on public record for really hard. But there's statement after statement that the guy makes where, as you were saying, his actions never match his words.
Kind of like Vivek Ramaswamy, but what do I know? I want to bring down drug prices, yet you were a pharma bro for the last 40-something years. So.
Correct. You're literally part of how we got here.
All right. So that's when you find yourself kind of agreeing with Jamie Dimon, you're in strange waters. So let's go to somebody who's actually dealing with this problem on a day-to-day basis, talking about it. This is the sheriff from Southern California, if I remember correctly.
We had an illegal immigrant, El Mano Negro. He was a hired hand by the cartel, where we arrested, and finally he admitted to killing and assassinating over 25 people in our county at the hands
Black
of
hand. That's an old pirate term.
We just unraveled a cartel in our county, dismantling that cartel. The people in that cartel that we arrested openly admitted that within the last 3 years, it's easier now to move human beings, drugs, guns, fentanyl most specifically across the border, and that it's easier now than in the history of their cartel. I can tell you because of the Biden and Harris administration, law enforcement resources are quickly depleted. We have victim after victim that we see, as you'll hear today, and that these stories are not unfamiliar to law enforcement up and down the state of California. We had an illegal immigrant.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to reveal any names, but in class this weekend, and Watcher met him, we have a rancher who has a massive ranch entirely along the border. And he essentially has to run a paramilitary operation to keep that ranch running due to the influx of armed and dangerous individuals all day and all night. So I'm actually probably going to do some stuff with him, and we may go down and do some audio recording of what radio intercepts we can get out there, and maybe film some of these intercepts. Well, there's a lot of stuff going out there. I'm not going to reveal his name or location, but along the border, pretty cool stuff. We had a great conversation with him on Saturday night.
Yeah, Joe Watcher was telling me about that before you came on in the back room, and it's just some of the things that he was saying. It's crazy.
That's why I tell everyone, as part of your preparedness plans, learn your state's citizens arrest laws because you might need them for something. and like I said, the entire class that I taught, he is living in real time on his ranch. They're running checkpoints and roadblocks. They're running entry control points and patrols and everything they need to be doing, running observation posts at night. It's crazy to see the concepts in my third book actually being used by someone in real life. So I was really happy to meet him and chat with him. So,
all right. Let's move on to our next one here.
This one, I'm gonna prep you. This is not a happy story.
Yeah. So this is.
Do we ever do happy stories here?
Occasionally.
This is a post from Bill Malungan. Is it? I'm sure I mispronounced that. Anyway, and this is a post over at X. It says, in a multi-day operation on Nantucket Island, ICE's Boston office announced that they arrested 4 illegal aliens or criminal aliens who are charged with raping or sexually assaulting Nantucket children or residents, all of whom were released from local custody despite the serious charges. They include, Elmer Sola, Salvadoran illegal alien who entered the U.S. as a got away and was charged last month with 3 counts of aggravated child rape. The victim was a Nantucket child. Brian Daniel Aldana, another Salvadoran illegal alien who entered the U.S. as a got away and was charged in July with raping a Nantucket child. Green do Amarel Belafonte, a Brazilian illegal alien who entered the U.S. as a got away, was charged in June with sexually assaulting a Nantucket resident. Felix Alberto Perez Gomez, a previously deported Guatemalan illegal alien who re-entered the U.S. As a got away and then was charged last month with sexually assaulting a Nantucket resident. All 4 of these alleged sex offenders were gotaways. ICE said they were all arrested by ICE on Nantucket, a sanctuary state in the sanctuary state of Massachusetts. According to internal CBP data, there have been over 1.9 million known gotaways who successfully evaded apprehension and snuck into the U.S. during the Biden administration. 1.9 million known. That doesn't count for all the ones they don't know about. Guys, this just makes me want to spit, honestly.
I mean, here's the thing. When you import an entire culture, they're going to continue to run the culture they have ran for thousands of years. This shouldn't be surprising to anyone that folks who live in crime-ridden countries come here and commit crimes. Wild.
Well, the thing that doesn't surprise me isn't the behavior, right? I mean, savages are savages, no matter where they are in the world, right? What's surprising to me is how many people have embraced the savagery, within our own governance system. And I don't understand. This is exactly what Jamie Dimon was talking about. If you have this unchecked, unrestricted, illegal immigration, you're basically going to destroy the country. Even Brett Weinstein, right, came out and said that you're destroying the West. Right. When these big liberals are bemoaning the crisis, it's starting to get to that saturation level.
And if anyone, that's not the goal all along.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Now let's be honest. Not all of them are in on the joke, right? Some of them are just, these good-hearted, soft hearts that want to, help people or whatever, but ultimately they're the useful idiots that have allowed us to get to where we are right now, and now they have buyer's remorse. All right. Let me get to this is actually our last one, so maybe we'll have an early day today, gents. This is a post from Wall Street Apes. This is interesting. This is more buyer's remorse. Now it's occurring in what? You okay there, Watcher?
No, that was from the video that I tried to pause.
From the video. This is more buyer's remorse. Manhattan, New York residents are losing it on Democrats over lying about illegal migrant crime rates. And these are a quote. They give you all their fake statistics. Well, if you don't arrest nobody, then you have no statistics. 100 murders in 466 days in office. Never before are both sides, Republican and Democrat. Have you ever had 100 murders in Manhattan in 466 days? On day one, Alvin Brown said he was going to prosecute felonies. They give you all that their fake statistics. Well, if you don't arrest nobody, you don't have any statistics. Let's listen to the guy in his own.
Obvious distinction. 100 murders in 466 days in office. Never before on both sides, Republican, Democrat, have you ever had 100 murders in Manhattan in 466 days. On day one, Alvin Bragg says he was not going to prosecute felonies. They give you all their fake statistics. Well, if you don't arrest nobody, you don't have no statistics. Have the dubious distinction: 100 murders.
Which, I mean, I was yelling about this when they very first took over, guys, when they announced that they were going to stop reporting on the interstate crime stuff. And the FBI even said that due to racial reasons, they were going to stop sharing their roundup of the data that comes out from all the different counties, as they have done traditionally since their founding. This was all designed to give you the fake impression that everything's fine.
I can't believe that they couldn't find a more stereotypical New Englander for that.
New York, yeah.
Right down to the red tie and blue jacket, Donald Trump style.
I know, right?
It's certainly a strategy.
The only thing that surprises me, we talk about people who have their heads in the sand, right? Who just, they just kind of like, la, 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 I'm not listening. I don't see the world. As long as it doesn't break down my front door, I don't care. There's these people, right? But if anything surprises me about this is that these people haven't done something like this sooner. I'm always amazed at the absolute obtuse nature of the sheep that are just so, their normalcy bias is so high that they don't want to see the chaos and the collapse. I mean, Joe, this is the collapse. This is exactly what you talk about on a regular basis. You're living in the, you're already in the collapse. And it's happening in New York City right now.
It's happening not just New York City. I believe it was Philadelphia over the weekend that literally devolved into a without rule of law environment all over the weekend, right? Pretty crazy. It's happening all over. And now they're going, wait, maybe I shouldn't have voted for all this. But at this point, it's too late. And they're about to learn that the folks that they voted for don't care what they want. This is why Kamala Harris has not given a single press conference. They don't care what you want. They don't want you to know what she's going to do because it doesn't matter anymore. And did we all see the document that surfaced yesterday where they're talking about a bill to allow for the appointment of replacement senators and representatives in the event of a mass casualty event? Boy, what does that sound like? We're going to stage another insurrection, and certain people are going to die, the ones we don't want, and we're going to be able to replace them with whomever we choose. Documents like that should terrify you and should tell you that certain times are nearer than they appear. Objects in mirror may be closer than they appear.
Yeah. In 19, the sad thing is when you think about the collapsing New York, you think about the late 70s and the early 80s when all those collapsing buildings from the beginning of the 20th century were a real eyesore all over, New York. But now what you've got is this kind of gentrified New York that's starting to begin its own. It's like a second collapse, right? So the buildings look nice and pretty, but the chaos is absolutely everywhere. It's kind of like, Joe, when we saw the video coming out of KZN, right? You had it wasn't like in a really terrible area. It was in a pretty bright, shiny mall. Is where.
By the way, on that note, the other night, Watcher and I sat around a campfire into the wee hours, drinking beers with a young lad from KwaZulu-Natal, Peter Maritzburg, actually. And what a great kid. We had a great conversation with him, and he lived through that. So very interesting. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting area, and the people who live there are pretty interesting too. They have.
It reminds me, Watcher, since you're still there, he told me he was going to try to make some biltong, and I didn't get any biltong. So,
yeah, he hasn't done it yet. But we get we have the lad till the end of October, so We'll try and get on that.
All right. He asked me if I wore the Rhodesian brushstroke just for him the other day. And I was like, sure. Sure, why not?
And your millions of other Rhodesian brothers.
Well, everyone had been complaining all weekend because I hadn't worn Rhodesian brushstroke once. So I wore it. It's Sunday. I was in full Rhodesian brushstroke head to toe. It was epic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, gentlemen. Any final thoughts on this criminal alien problem that we've got? How it's maybe affecting the election? We'll probably be talking about the election.
Proof that it's affecting the election and proof that the media is altering people's narratives, because we went from Haitians eat other human beings to there's no way a Haitian would ever eat a duck or a cat in record time. Right?
So fast.
As if what Haitians eat suddenly is geographically dependent, right?
My favorite was it's not cats, it's just the geese. Oh, good.
Right? Just the geese.
I've got a great movie they should all watch called The Serpent and the Rainbow. So if you want to learn a little bit about Haitians and what they do, The Serpent and the Rainbow is a fantastic film.
Anything else, guys? I think we're gonna wrap it up. We're about 15 minutes ahead of schedule. So, Joe, final thoughts for the week going into the domestic show on Friday.
Hey, listen, there's an election coming up allegedly, and we also have. Yes, Mr. J. Scott, you're right. We also have the anniversary of
close.
We have the anniversary of October 7th coming up. There is a lot going on you need to pay attention to. In relation to the October 7th thing coming up, Palestinian Student Organization and various other groups are calling for more militancy and more actual direct action. And when they say direct action, they mean smashing up police stations, lighting them on fire, that kind of stuff. They're all calling for more and more of that. So you need to be paying attention. If you can get to your retreat location or enclave, get there. Find somewhere out of the blue hives to be for the next 2 months. It's going to be rough. So,
very good. Watcher.
Read that article that I shared it in the chat. I guess I can go ahead and do it again. Go
and follow Untapped Growth on Twitter too.
Yes, go follow Untapped Growth on Twitter. That's it's an excellent account. You will gain much insight and edification from his words.
Yeah, 100%. Anything else, Watcher, other than just telling people to read an article?
Just be good to each other. Or what do I see coming up on the horizon? I see a very excellent Friday show in which we discuss a lot of domestic things that were almost so pressing we put them on this show instead. So stay tuned for Friday.
Yeah. There's one particular clip. Joe will share it with you right after the show that I can't wait to share with our audience on Friday. It's pretty powerful, and it gets to the whole point of accountability, right? We will be talking about accountability as one of our topics on Friday. Let's see. If you haven't done it already, check out my Indiegogo page. We just dropped the free preview, 29-page preview of Land and Sea Paradise, basically the first half of the book. The other half is written. Watcher, I'm already starting to get layout, so I'll make sure I share those with you. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. The layouts are coming, so I'm looking forward to that. Watching Doug's art process is always very, very amazing. So I'm just glad to have linked up with somebody that talented, and he's living down there in Brazil, so hope he's staying safe down there. Just like our buddy Costa, who is also kind of probably dodging and weaving down in Brazil. It is what it is. Gentlemen, that's all I've got for today. I'm looking forward to Friday's show. There's a lot of really important stuff that we need to talk about. Probably that's one of those shows where we'll talk for about 20 minutes and then we'll just immediately go straight to Rumble because
It's going to be a spicy one.
Yeah, it's pretty spicy, so should be a lot of fun. Should be the three of us, and I think we might be able to recruit a couple more folks to come in on the Friday show. So stay tuned for that. That's all I've got for today. Thank you for being here, Joe. Appreciate you. Smiling face back on the big screen there.
I probably won't be here Friday, but we'll talk about that. So
all right. And then we will then probably see all of you guys chat on Friday. If you haven't done it already, please subscribe to our channel, either over on Rumble or on YouTube. Like the video. Make sure you do a comment because that helps too. I've noticed a bump on Rumble for sure when you guys made all those comments the other day. So feel free to let us know how you thought of the show, or if there's something you want to see on Friday, put it in the comments.
Why don't we leave them with a parting question, something that they need to answer in the comments of the show now once it's over. I don't know. You got a good one, Joe?
Yeah. Have you done your area study yet?
Yes. Perfect.
Very, very, very good.
So report into the comments on whether you completed your area study.
And that's how we'll know that you stayed through and watched the whole show. So appreciate all of you guys here, whether you're on YouTube or Rumble or X. Thank you guys very much. And as always, stay safe.